It all began with a letter. A white envelope taped crookedly to my mailbox, stamped with the terrifying seal of the Greenwood Estates Homeowners Association. Inside was a violation notice accusing me of unsanctioned decorative property modification. I laughed until I read the details. Apparently, my garden gnome was aesthetically disruptive and potentially offensive to community standards. It was a smiling little gnome holding a fishing pole, not a political protest. The letter demanded immediate removal or a $150 fine. I thought it was a joke until my neighbor Todd, HOA board member and full-time lawn snitch, nodded seriously when I asked about it. Karen takes decorations seriously, he whispered, glancing around like we were in a spy movie. Karen, HOA president, power-tripping suburban dictator in yoga pants. I tried to be reasonable. I called her, politely explaining it was just a harmless decoration. She interrupted halfway through. Rules are rules, Mr. Dawson. We can't have visual clutter. Visual clutter. My front yard looked like a golf course. Hers looked like an abandoned Pinterest board. That night, I told my wife, and we laughed it off. What's next, she joked. A fine for breathing too loud? Spoiler, she wasn't far off. The gnome stayed. The fine started. And Karen, oh, she was just getting warmed up. A week later, I woke up to the sound of heavy machinery. At first, I thought it was city construction, but then I realized it was in my yard. A rented bulldozer, bright yellow and operated by two men in neon vests, was tearing down my fence. My brand new cedar privacy fence, the one I built myself over 2 weekends. I stormed outside, waving my arms. Hey, what are you doing? One guy shouted back. HOA orders, sir. Fence not approved. Not approved. I had submitted the plans, got no objection, and it was well within property lines. But there they were ripping it apart like it was made of Legos. I called Karen. She answered on speaker, voice dripping with fake politeness. Yes, Mr. Dawson. Your fence violated community symmetry standards. We sent a notice last week. No, you didn't. Yes, we did. Check your mailbox. I did. Nothing. Empty. She sighed. Well, you should have received it. My 13-year-old son Ethan stood beside me, fists clenched. He muttered. Dad, can I use the Barrett? Referring to my old Barrett M82 replica from the gun club, which thankfully was deactivated. I laughed, but Karen didn't. I filmed everything. The bulldozer, the workers, the destroyed fence. By the time they were done, my yard looked like a crime scene. Later that day, I got another letter. Fine $1,200. Reason: unauthorized fencing structure. That was the moment I decided. I was done playing nice. You'd think the destruction of my fence would have scared the other neighbors. Nope. It empowered them. Suddenly, half the street became self-appointed enforcers. Todd started patrolling with a clipboard, timing how long my trash bins stayed on the curb. Cheryl next door reported that my mailbox was half a shade darker than HOA-approved taupe. It was like living in a sitcom written by Satan. I stayed calm. I documented everything. Every note, every fine, every conversation. I created a folder titled Karen vs. the World. Ethan helped too. He set up one of his old drones to record our street. Karen didn't like that. One evening she stood on her porch, pointing and yelling. You can't film my property. I yelled back. Tell your bulldozer that. Then came the next violation. Excessive lawn height, 2.3 inches. The HOA required 2 inches exactly. Not 2 1/4. Not 2 1/2. 2 inches. When I ignored it, a $300 fine appeared. I started to wonder, was this even legal? I checked the HOA bylaws. The fine structure didn't match. The enforcement methods weren't written anywhere. It looked fake, like someone made it up. That night, Ethan looked up from his laptop and said, Dad, did you know the HOA's incorporation status expired last year? I froze. He was right. Our HOA might not even be real. I dug deeper. Ethan printed the public record documents. Greenwood Estates HOA's incorporation had expired 18 months ago. In plain English, they weren't legally allowed to issue fines, enforce rules, or bulldoze a single blade of grass. They were a ghost organization. Karen and her board were just playing HOA. It was like discovering your local cop was actually just a guy with a badge from eBay. I called a friend, an actual real estate lawyer. After laughing for a solid minute, he said, "Yeah, they're toast. Everything they've done is null and void." So I planned carefully. I'd expose them, but not yet. First, I wanted to see how far they'd go. Sure enough, the next morning, I got another fine for displaying unauthorized symbols. What symbol? The American flag on my porch. Apparently, it clashed with the community's neutral color palette. That was the last straw. I photocopied every letter, recorded every call, and started emailing real HOA members from the past, the actual board from before Karen took over. Turns out they resigned when she assumed control, and just never followed up on the paperwork. Karen, Todd, and 2 others basically created their own fake HOA to feel powerful. By the weekend, I was ready to pull the pin. Karen had built her little empire on expired paperwork, and I was about to bulldoze her. Step 1. Make copies of everything. Step 2. Call a meeting. I sent invitations to every homeowner in Greenwood Estates, not from the HOA, but from me. The note read, "Urgent community meeting, Sunday at 5 p.m. Important legal updates about HOA status and property rights." Karen freaked out. She came to my door, furious, waving one of my letters. "You can't just call meetings. That's my job." "Funny," I said. "You'd need to be legally recognized to have that job." Her smile cracked. "Excuse me. See you Sunday." Word spread fast. Even the quiet neighbors showed up, curiosity beating fear. Karen and her crew arrived too, trying to take charge. She brought a binder thicker than a Bible, filled with regulations. I waited until everyone was seated. Then I pulled out the real records. "This," I said, "is from the county registrar. The Greenwood Estates HOA was officially dissolved 18 months ago. Meaning, every fine, every violation, every fence bulldozed, was done under false authority." The silence that followed was glorious. Karen's face went red, then purple. "That's not true," she yelled. Ethan projected the public record on a portable screen. Everyone could see it, black and white proof. The crowd started murmuring. Todd looked ready to evaporate. That day the neighborhood turned, not on me, but on her. Karen lost it. She started shouting that I was undermining community integrity. Todd backed her up weakly, saying something about tradition. But people weren't buying it anymore. They wanted answers. Mrs. Williams, an 82-year-old who'd lived there longer than Karen had been alive, stood up and said, "You fined me for wind chimes." "Wind chimes? I've had them for 40 years. Karen tried to cut her off, but it was too late. The room was buzzing with anger. I calmly laid out the evidence. Unauthorized fines, no legal standing, destroyed property. Ethan played video of the bulldozer incident on the projector. People gasped. "Did you actually do that?" someone shouted. Karen crossed her arms. "It was a safety concern." "Of cedar wood?" I said. "Was it attacking people?" Laughter broke out. Then I added the cherry on top. The fake HOA bank account, registered under Karen's husband's name. My lawyer friend found it through public records. When I displayed the screenshot, she nearly fainted. Karen stormed out, yelling something about calling her lawyer. Todd followed, looking like he'd aged 10 years. I closed the meeting with a smile. Until further notice, the HOA is officially inactive. You own your homes. Enjoy your lawns, folks. People cheered. Some even hugged me. But deep down I knew Karen wasn't done. And I was right. 3 days later, retaliation arrived, in the form of anonymous letters. Noise complaint. Trash violation. Improper lighting fixture. Each one unsigned, but the tone was unmistakable, pure Karen. Then came the social warfare. Todd's wife stopped waving at mine. Kids whispered that Ethan's dad was a criminal. Someone even dumped garbage in my yard overnight. I didn't react. I just installed more cameras. Then one morning, I found a notice taped to my door, not an HOA letter this time, but a cease and desist order from Greenwood Community Management. A fake company name printed on cheap letterhead. I laughed so hard I nearly spilled my coffee. I called the number listed. A man answered. This is Property Enforcement Division. His voice cracked halfway through. Hi Todd, I said. How's the new business? Click. That night, Karen appeared at my property line, flashlight in hand, shouting about trespassing boundaries on my land. Ethan started recording again. She screamed. You can't film me. Public view, I said. And you're on my property. She left, muttering curses. Ethan uploaded the clip to a local neighborhood forum. Within 24 hours, it had 10,000 views and the comments were brutal. She's unhinged. Why's she harassing him? Wait, didn't she bulldoze his fence? The court of public opinion had spoken. Karen's power was crumbling. And this time, she couldn't find her way out. Then came the night that would turn the whole saga into legend. It was 2 a.m. when I heard engines. I looked outside, another bulldozer. A different one, smaller, but parked right in front of my yard. Ethan was already awake, filming through his window. Dad, he said, they're back. I went outside, calm but furious. 2 men stood there in reflective vests, pretending to measure my lawn. We've been instructed to clear illegal fencing debris, one mumbled. There is no debris, I said. Then Karen stepped out of her SUV, flashlight in hand, smirking. We're restoring order. Before I could reply, Ethan came out onto the porch, holding the big Barrett replica, sling over his shoulder. He didn't point it. He just stood there, silent, eyes locked on them. Karen froze. One worker whispered, "Is that real?" I said, perfectly calm. "It's deactivated. But the camera next to it isn't." They backed off. Karen shouted, "This is intimidation." I replied, "So was the bulldozer." Within minutes, they were gone, tire tracks fading into the night. The next morning, the video hit social media. The headline? Fake HOA bulldozed family's fence, came back, got greeted by a Barrett. It went viral. Local news called. Lawyers called. Even the real county inspector called, to apologize. Karen disappeared from sight for days. But the fallout? Oh, that was only beginning. By sunrise, our sleepy suburb had become internet famous. The video of Ethan standing with the Barrett had hit 500,000 views overnight. Memes flooded in. When HOA meets NRA, Karen versus Logic. Barrett boy saves suburbia. My phone exploded with reporters asking for interviews. I politely declined, but one local station ran the story anyway, labeling Karen as the self-appointed HOA queen. That afternoon, her driveway was lined with reporters and angry neighbors demanding refunds for fines. Someone spray-painted fake HOA on her mailbox in neon pink. Poetic justice. Todd tried to play peacemaker. "Maybe we should talk this out," he said nervously. "Sure," I replied. "Bring the bulldozer paperwork." Karen finally called me, screaming naturally. "You've ruined my reputation." "No," I said. "You did that yourself. I just turned on the lights." By evening, the real county code enforcement officer came by to inspect my property. He looked around, shook his head, and said, "Everything here's up to code. They had no authority to touch this." He even gave me a written statement for legal protection. Meanwhile, Ethan's clip kept trending. People started mailing us garden gnomes as a joke. By week's end, our front yard looked like a gnome army. Karen's empire wasn't just collapsing. It was imploding in 4K resolution. And she was about to make her final, desperate move. Karen filed a lawsuit. Well, tried to. Her HOA attorney sent me a cease and desist for defamation and unlawful intimidation. It looked impressive until my lawyer buddy laughed so hard he spilled coffee on it. "This was written in Comic Sans," he said. Turns out, the law firm didn't exist. Karen's cousin Jerry had drafted it using a free online template. He forgot to remove the watermark. But that didn't stop her. She started mailing the entire neighborhood a 4-page manifesto titled, "Reclaiming Community Standards." It accused me of being a militant anarchist trying to destroy unity. Unity, apparently, meant Karen's control. Some neighbors believed her at first, until they saw the evidence. Others just ignored her. But a few hardcore followers, the Karentines, began patrolling the streets again, wearing neon vests labeled neighborhood compliance. Ethan caught them on camera one night measuring our gnome army with rulers. He uploaded the clip with the caption, "When tyranny meets geometry." It hit 1 million views. The HOA's fake reputation was now a global laughingstock. But the lawsuit still lingered. Karen kept threatening court action, while simultaneously denying the HOA's fake status. It was both hilarious and exhausting. So I decided to end it, once and for all. I'd call a new meeting. A public one this time. At City Hall. And I'd invite the real authorities. City Hall was packed. Local news cameras, curious residents, even a few police officers, all waiting. Karen arrived 20 minutes late, flanked by her board members, like a suburban mafia. She wore oversized sunglasses indoors, probably to hide the stress lines forming from weeks of online roasting. I started calmly. "Ladies and gentlemen, tonight we clarify once and for all who actually runs Greenwood Estates." Karen interrupted instantly. "I do. I was elected unanimously." I raised an eyebrow. "Elected by who?" "Yourself, Todd and Jerry." The audience chuckled. She slammed her binder shut. I handed out certified documents, proof from the county showing the HOA's legal dissolution, the fake bank accounts and fraudulent fines. Then the kicker, the bulldozer invoice billed to Karen personally. The crowd gasped. Karen stammered, "That's fabricated." The county inspector stepped up. "No, ma'am. That's your signature." Dead silence. She tried storming out, but the reporters blocked her path. Cameras flashed. Someone yelled, "Karen, do you regret the bulldozer?" She muttered something about community defense before bolting out the side door. The mayor himself approached me afterward. "Mr. Dawson," he said, smiling, "you've single-handedly cleaned up a mess we didn't even know existed." For the first time in months, I felt peace. But Karen wasn't quite done disappearing yet. After the City Hall disaster, Karen went radio silent. Her SUV disappeared. Her porch lights stayed off, and her mailbox overflowed with letters. For 2 weeks, it was like she'd vanished off the planet. Rumors spread. She'd moved, been arrested, joined a pyramid scheme in Florida. Todd refused to comment, only saying, "She's taking time off." Meanwhile, the county formally voided all HOA fines, citing fraudulent governance. Everyone who'd been fined got refunds, paid out of Karen's frozen accounts. The satisfaction was delicious. I got invited to speak at a homeowner rights seminar. Me, a regular dad who just wanted to keep a gnome in peace. Ethan, ever the internet mastermind, started selling Free the Gnomes t-shirts online. They sold out in 3 days. Then out of nowhere, I got a letter. No return address. Inside a single sentence. "You haven't seen the last of me." Signed K. Ethan laughed. "She's trying to be the Joker now?" We ignored it, mostly. But late one night, our doorbell rang. On the porch sat a broken garden gnome, smashed in half, with a sticky note that read, "Remove this or else." I looked up, scanning the dark street. Nobody there. Karen was gone. But her spirit of petty vengeance? Still haunting the block. Without Karen's dictatorship, Greenwood Estates actually started feeling like a community. We held a neighborhood barbecue, the first one in years. Todd even came, sheepishly bringing potato salad as a peace offering. "I was just trying to keep my lawn approved," he admitted. "Water under the mower," I said, shaking his hand. People laughed again. Kids played. Nobody cared about grass symmetry or neutral mailboxes. We put up lights, flags, and yes, even wind chimes for Mrs. Williams. The mayor's office helped us form a new, legitimate neighborhood committee. No fines, no power trips, just volunteers helping each other. Ethan was made youth tech advisor for setting up a community website. Still, I couldn't help but feel Karen lurking somewhere, waiting for her comeback. Then one day, a moving truck pulled into her old house. A new family, friendly folks with 2 golden retrievers, waved at everyone. I asked the driver where Karen had gone. He shrugged. Lady said she was moving out west. Somewhere quiet. Perfect. That night, I walked into the yard, looking at my army of gnomes under the soft glow of string lights. Ethan walked up beside me. "So, peace at last." "Yep," I said. "And no bulldozers in sight." He grinned. "You sure we shouldn't build one? You know, for protection." We both laughed. 6 months passed. Life was normal, almost boring, until the new HOA newsletter appeared. Printed in the same pompous format as before, it read, Greenwood Estates Homeowners Association proudly re-established under new management. Guess who signed it? Karen. Apparently, she'd moved just 2 towns over, filed for reincorporation, and declared herself acting president. Then she mailed everyone, trying to reclaim her empire. But this time, she wasn't facing clueless homeowners. She was facing me. We held another meeting. Karen showed up uninvited, smiling like a cartoon villain. I've come to resume order, she announced. I leaned forward. Karen, we already have a committee, and you're not on it. She waved a paper. I'm legally reinstated. The county clerk, who was also present, took the document, scanned it, and said flatly, this incorporation was rejected for missing signatures. Also, you can't re-establish control over private residences you don't own. Karen's smile cracked. The room erupted in laughter. She stomped out again, shouting, You'll all regret this. We didn't. Instead, we framed the newsletter and hung it in the community hall under a plaque that read, In memory of the HOA that couldn't. The legend of Karen officially became neighborhood folklore. A year later, Greenwood Estates was thriving. Gardens bloomed, kids biked freely, and nobody worried about color-coordinated shutters. We even built a small memorial garden, not for Karen, but for the fence. A few cedar planks, restored and upright, standing proudly behind a sign that read, Never bulldozed again. Ethan designed it. People loved it. Our new committee worked on helpful things, pothole repairs, community movie nights, even tutoring programs. No fines, no spying, no Karen. Every now and then, we'd get letters from outsiders asking, Is it true a kid with a Barrett saved your neighborhood? We'd laugh and answer, sort of. But truthfully, it wasn't about the Barrett or even the fence. It was about standing up to nonsense, calmly, legally, and with a bit of humor. Ethan got into a good high school, his essay titled, The Day My HOA Met the Internet. His teacher apparently called it the greatest modern civics lesson ever written. Sometimes at sunset, I still catch myself glancing down the street, half expecting to see Karen's SUV creeping by. But she's long gone, probably tormenting some new cul-de-sac. As for us, we're free. The fence stands. The gnomes smile. And our neighborhood finally knows peace. Not because we tore anyone down, but because we refused to bow to fake power. Just when I thought it was over, a letter arrived from the county courthouse. Karen had officially filed a small claims case. Not against me, but against the entire neighborhood committee. The claim? Emotional distress caused by defamation and unauthorized governance. In short, she was suing us for not letting her boss everyone around. We all showed up to court, ready for one final showdown. Karen strutted in with a new lawyer, probably the only person in town desperate enough to take her case. The judge, an older man with half-moon glasses, read through the file for about 5 minutes before sighing. Mrs. Thompson, he said, your HOA was never legally active. You cannot claim damages for authority you did not possess. Karen stood up, indignant. But I was protecting the neighborhood. By bulldozing fences? The judge replied dryly. The courtroom chuckled. He dismissed the case with prejudice, warning her against further creative law enforcement. Afterward, the judge leaned over to me and whispered, Next time, maybe just plant a taller fence. Outside the courthouse, neighbors clapped. It felt like the series finale of a sitcom, absurd, hilarious, and deeply satisfying. Karen stormed off muttering about appeals. But we all knew this was her curtain call. The fence won. The gnomes prevailed. And justice, finally, had a sense of humor. A few weeks later, our story made it to Netflix. Well, technically, a documentary producer contacted us about a series called Suburban Showdowns, Real-Life HOA Wars. They wanted to feature Greenwood Estates as the fake HOA that went too far. I couldn't stop laughing. Ethan immediately volunteered to handle the footage. I already have drone shots, he said proudly. The crew arrived, interviewed everyone, from Mrs. Williams and her rebellious wind chimes to Todd, who admitted, Yeah, I was scared of Karen. She had binder energy. Karen declined to participate, of course. But the editors included clips of her shouting from City Hall, making her look like a comic book villain. When the episode premiered, the reaction was wild. Millions watched. Our little suburb turned into an internet landmark. Ethan became somewhat of a local celebrity, the Barrett kid. He even got invited to speak at a youth leadership event about standing up to bullies peacefully. My wife and I just sat on the porch one evening, watching the sunset. Imagine telling someone a year ago this would happen because of one garden gnome, she said. I smiled. Guess that little guy started a revolution. The best part? Royalties from the documentary funded our new community park, complete with a small bronze statue of a smiling gnome holding a sign that read, "Never forget. HOA free since 2023. Just when peace seemed permanent, Karen reappeared. Not in person but online. A new Facebook page popped up. Citizens for Proper Neighborhood Standards. Its admin? Kay Thompson. She started posting about declining values, unsanctioned decorations, and unregulated youth behavior. It was like the HOA, reincarnated in HTML. At first, people ignored it. Then she began tagging neighbors by name, claiming we were endangering property integrity. Todd texted me. She's back digitally. So we fought fire with laughter. Ethan made parody posts under the handle Citizens for Better BBQs. Within a day, our meme page had triple her followers. Her final post read, "History will vindicate me." It got 2,000 laughing emojis. Then, mysteriously, the page vanished. Either she rage quit, or Facebook moderation finally stepped in. Either way, silence returned. But I'll admit something. I almost missed her chaos. Almost. Life had gotten peaceful. Lawns, barbecues, no drama. It felt strange not to check the mailbox for absurd fines. That's when I realized, neighborhoods don't need rulers. They need community. We didn't just defeat a fake HOA. We'd proven that people can govern themselves with fairness and humor. Ethan looked up from his laptop one night and said, "Dad, we should write a book about this." I grinned. "You write the title, I'll write the ending." He thought for a moment. How about, fake HOA bulldozed our fence, but not our freedom? Perfect. It's funny how a simple yard decoration turned into a civics lesson. Our neighborhood changed forever. Not because of the drama, but because we learned what real community looks like. No more spying. No more tattling. People helped each other fix fences instead of reporting them. Mrs. Williams started a Freedom Garden Club. Todd now runs the new legitimate HOA. We call it Helping Our Area. Same letters, opposite meaning. Every summer we host Fence Fest, a block party celebrating our victory. Kids dress up as gnomes, we barbecue, and Ethan gives a short speech that always ends with, "You can bulldoze a fence, but you can't bulldoze the truth." That line became our motto. Even years later, people still send us letters thanking us for standing up. One came from a guy in Texas. "Your story made me challenge my HOA. Thanks, Barrett kid." Ethan keeps that one framed. Sometimes I glance at our old footage, the fence, the bulldozer, the absurdity of it all, and think, we really lived through that. But honestly, I wouldn't trade it. Because now, every time I step outside and see my gnomes lined up proudly under the sunrise, I'm reminded of one simple truth. Home isn't about control. It's about belonging. And no fake HOA can ever find that away. It's been 3 years since the Great Fence War. Greenwood Estates is quiet again. The kind of quiet that comes after a long storm. Our lawns are wild but beautiful, every house a reflection of its owner. The old HOA sign still hangs crooked at the entrance, now spray-painted with one word. Free. Karen never returned. Rumor says she moved to Arizona to start a new, desert community council. I wish them luck. Ethan's in college now, studying media and law, says he wants to protect people from bullies like Karen, but through truth, not weapons. I couldn't be prouder. Sometimes neighbors still stop by our fence, yes, the rebuilt one, and ask to take photos. It's become something of a landmark. A symbol of what happens when ordinary people stand up for what's right. The gnome still stands at the gate, smiling. A tiny sentry guarding peace. And every night, when the sun dips below the horizon, I look at that little guy and whisper, "We did it." Because in the end, it wasn't about revenge or fame or viral moments. It was about standing firm, calmly, wisely, and with just enough sarcasm to survive suburban insanity. We didn't just keep our fence. We kept our freedom. And that, my friends, is how a fake HOA learned the hard way. Never mess with a family that builds fences stronger than fear.